Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
And we're recording this show on Sunday night, and as we're recording this, there's a thunderstorm hit me just now. So there's thunder noises, there's lightning flashes, there's sirens going off. This could be making interesting ambience in the background for all you people listening at home. Hopefully it doesn't prove too distracting.
Oh, thunder. Oh.
Was that 21 Thunder?
No.
That wonderful TV show
Is
that I got the
that's,
jersey from? It's
oh.
got to be a collector's item, that
It
jersey.
is. No, it's. Do you remember? No, that's AC/DC. But do you remember they used to sing that for who was it?
Minnesota Thunder.
No, there's someone else. I can't even remember now. I was thinking about Swangard today.
Oh,
Lots of
well,
fun
yeah.
memories.
Well, we'll talk about that in part two, but it was so nice to be back at Swangard. It brought back so many memories. There was even a mini South Side, very mini. There was about 6 people in it, but it was raining. But we'll come to that in part two. Part three, we're going to be looking around Canadian soccer. We're going to be talking about the Canadian women being in BC, the CPL kicked off, a little bit of chat about the men's national team. But we're going to start things off in this part with a look at the Whitecaps, a look at MLS, because it was the first Cascadian derby of the season on Saturday night. Quite a big bit disappointing in terms of the result. Timbers came away with a 3-2 victory. It was a match that I just thought Portland were not very good. They had 4 shots on target for the whole game, and 3 of those end up in the back of the net. For me, Steve, it felt the Whitecaps didn't deserve to come away empty-handed, but when you give up 3 goals on 4 shots on target, you kind of reap what you sow a little bit.
I feel like they handed them the game, basically. For me, the biggest talking point for this game would be the formation not matching what the coach wanted to do on the pitch, based on what he said at halftime. That was the biggest thing about me. It was just like too much sitting back, not enough urgency in the first half, and then when the urgency came, it's just like too many holes in the back there to give up those late goals. So yeah, it wasn't a good chemistry and formula to get a victory against the Timbers in the 100th meeting overall too.
Yeah, I know, a milestone match as well, which was nice to see it celebrated and a nod to the history. And I know people go on about it's a different Whitecaps, etc., but I still like to claim that Whitecaps history. I think it's important to have a history with your football teams, and the Cascadian clubs certainly do that. But yeah, Zach, defensively, and we'll get into that. I mean, we're not going to delve too much into breaking the game down. We'll just talk about the big talking points, but defensively is one of the big talking points from a Whitecaps point of view. That was a bit of a horror show out there at times.
Yeah, there was some significant. There were some significant, plays where they got beat or just poor marking. But I think that again comes down to what we talked about. I also felt like Portland really did take advantage of the Home being a wingback. right? Like I think Dahomey, Steve, you talk. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Steve. I think that's a good point about what the game was about. But I think it's one of those games where like, who are you going to talk about the most in this game? It's like Christian Dahomey. He was the one who just
both sides of the pitch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He kind of defined
highs and lows
both ways, offensively and defensively. And yeah, I mean, I've heard like some people just kind of trash it and just say, look, now we know they're not good enough, or now this wasn't a very good effort. And I've heard other people say, no, there's some things that can be taken out of this game. And once again, as frustrating as the result will be, I do think there are things that they can both build from and be encouraged from in this game. And one of them is, I know Steve, you sort of referenced it too. One is the fight back. Like they didn't lay over. It felt like a little bit like last year, the big run they had at the end of the season where they wouldn't lie down for anyone. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and you feel if there was another few minutes added on, I think they really could have got the equaliser.
Totally.
And it's a strange team at the moment because we know they're not firing on all cylinders, and there's been times that they have looked at a bad team. But you also have to think who's not in there, and they haven't got chemistry going, and we haven't seen the front three that ideally we want to see over the course of the season. We haven't seen the back three that we ideally want to see over the course of the season. And the midfield is still a big concern, but obviously you've got Caio Alexandre out, and Pedro Viti's not getting the starts either. So I think there are pieces there. So I don't quite think it's a case of hitting the panic button, but that there's areas that certainly concern me. And we'll kind of do a little glass half full, glass half empty approach. But just to break down the game, first of all, Steve, the first half, so little to talk about in that. This was a match that was important for both teams, because the Whitecaps, you want to keep that home field advantage and get those wins going, and they've spoken about it a lot, that they have to take points at home, and ideally 3 points at home. And you've got that pressure on the Whitecaps, and you've got the pressure on Portland going into this, because they're coming on the back of 3 straight defeats. And it was cagey in the opening stages. Neither team were really going for it. And then the game just kind of blew open in the 39th minute when Portland get a penalty, which I don't know what your thoughts were when you were watching it live, because as it happened and Petrescu didn't give anything, we were all saying, well, surely there was a foul from one of the two Whitecaps that absolutely sandwiched and clattered the guy to the ground.
It's hard to simulate that kind of fall. For me, it was very similar. It would be similar to like when you're in a bar or a club or something like that, and you're with your friends, and all of a sudden somebody comes out of nowhere and just punches somebody in the head. And that was what like the homie was.
What
just
bars do you go to?
No, I'm just saying, like if in that kind of situation, like where you see that in a movie or something like that, even where somebody
I've never seen that.
Well, you got to go to the clubs I go to, the bars I go to.
It reminded me of like when you're in the playground and there's like a fight at school, and then a kid just runs in, but he doesn't really throw a punch. He just kind of runs in and clatters
somebody. It was just essentially like that. And like I don't know what Dahomey was thinking, what he was trying to accomplish there. Because I felt like he was trying to like jump around him so he could get in front of him.
Yeah, he tried to get out of the way, I think, when he realised what was happening. And like the thing for me with that goal is Loria, for that whole first half, had been given acres of room on that left-hand side of the pitch. I don't know how well it came across on the TV, but when you're watching it from up high in the press box, he was just left alone. And part of it was because Youngworth was getting drawn into the middle when he didn't need to be. He just seemed to want to be more in the middle. And Dahomey had no idea what was going on behind him. And there was one point where I was pointing out to JJ Adams that was beside me. I said, look at Loria down there. I said, he's in acres of room and Youngworth's gone into the middle, and not once did Dahomey look behind to see what was happening. He was just focused about what was ahead of him.
Yeah, you texted me that.
That's the trouble. Yeah, that's the trouble when you're not a defender.
Yeah, you text me saying, "Look at all the space Larea has. Like he's going to totally exploit this."
Well,
Yeah,
JJ was taking my position because you always did that to me too.
Yes.
Look how much space that guy have.
I know.
It was a consistent thing with you. But for me, it's like I want to go back to the first half and the halftime comments as well, really quickly. At halftime, because you guys probably didn't see this on TV. Sartini basically said that we know Portland's going to sit back, and we got into fitting into what they were doing and sitting back or not playing aggressively. My problem there is if you know they're going to sit back, you got to have a more aggressive players on the pitch.
Yep.
And that's where Berhalter, and I think Berhalter played a really good game, but having a Berhalter and a Tybert, both similar players on the pitch, when you could have had a Vite or even if is, and why did you put Vite on at the halftime?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the impact he made when he came on. So
and he got gold in the game too, I felt. And so that was a big thing for me. And even I think one of the wing backs could have been different and stuff like that. Not overly too many changes, but you had to be more aggressive then. If you knew that was coming into the game that Portland was going to play like that.
Do you guys think Vanny does that though? Like double stacks the middle like that with players like that, because he knows that they're gonna one of them's gonna have to cover for like a Dahome, because otherwise it makes no sense. Because
they did it.
Everyone in their dogs said the same thing. Like, why are these two starting in the middle again?
Well, the other question for me though is, why do you have Gutierrez starting as a centre back? He's not a centre back.
Yeah.
That was just quite a bizarre one for me.
I think because they really wanted to reward, show encouragement to Raposo for his match-winning performance in his first ever start, right? So I get why they wanted him in, but yeah, it felt a little bit weird when you saw Gutierrez in the back. It
definitely felt strange. I don't think if Raposo hadn't scored last week, Raposo would have got the start.
I agree.
So it's like Vanny thought, well, I was going to play Guti, and I've told Guti he's going to play in this game. So he's trying to put him into a thing, which meant that Jake Nerwinski was the guy that missed out. And I think Jake's been doing well at the back this year. He's not been outstanding, but
it hasn't made any massive mistakes.
No, that's the thing. If you look at some of the goals that we've given up this year, I don't know how many of them you would pin on Jake being out of position or not getting a tackle or whatever.
For me, this is the only sport out of all the major ones where somebody down the roster, if they make a contribution, they get rewarded with a start. Maybe it's just the Whitecaps. I don't know. Maybe it's just the Whitecaps. But it's a common thing in football. If a fourth liner in hockey scores a winning goal, if a backup like a lower level receiver scores a touchdown, if a down in the bottom bench player scores a winning basket, they don't get rewarded with a start in the next game. You basically you're still on the bench. We still know who the better players are on the pitch.
That's actually really fair. I've never thought of it that way before, but
for me, rewarding somebody for let's all the respect to Raposo, a fluky kind of goal. I'm not good. I want my best players on the pitch. I'm not ready to reward anybody on that.
Well, I mean, let's talk another thing about the lineup as well. Lucas Cavallini wasn't pegged to start because
illness.
Yeah, he was on the bench. Him and his family had a stomach bug during the week, so he was a late scratch, so he fell out of the team. Now, the initial plan, from what we've been led to believe, is Brian White could go an hour. So you've now got him, he's gone the whole game because he kind of had to, because you look at that bench, and there was not much on that bench. Toss Ricketts, perhaps, but there was nothing on that bench that if you had to be chasing the game and chasing a goal, which they were, that you look at that bench and go, oh, here's your difference maker that's going to come on. So they've had to go the whole 90 with White, which could, like when they were 2 down, and I was proved wrong here. I thought that was going to be it, and it was going to be game over. I would have taken White off at that point so that you're not risking him maybe breaking down and then missing a game next week that they could maybe get the win in. So, I mean, that was a risky situation as well. But I think, Steve, it also shows that our depth at the moment is a little concerning, especially in the attacking side.
If you know you don't have enough strikers, maybe make an adjustment up the top. Maybe play an extra midfielder or something like that. Maybe that's where Vite or somebody
Maybe
else
put
could have came in.
Dahomey up top.
Yeah, or something like that. Like there could have been, there definitely could have been adjustments there where you didn't have to be like without somebody. And I think they were apparently during the game they were mentioning that they were asking White if he's okay, is he still good to go? So they were kept communicating with him as well.
A player's always going to say yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but they have those things on as well to see their vitals and stuff like that. So I guess he was still alive by the half hour point. But
unlike the Whitecaps.
Yeah, but overall, yeah, I it's just when you're stuck with that, if you're not going to put Ricketts on, like you could even save Raposo off the bench at that point. That's what we're talking about. Like Raposo could have played up top if he needed to. So there's enough options where they didn't have to put White. Maybe he was good to go for the 60, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to have come through unscathed. Something which annoyed me in the game is last week I watched the Portland LA Galaxy game, and all 3 LA Galaxy goals came up the left side as the Galaxy attacked, targeting the right-hand side of Portland. But for some reason, for a lot of this game, the Whitecaps were going up the other side of the pitch. And I thought that was a missed opportunity. And it kind of showed in the first half because the Whitecaps finished the half with not one shot on target on a home game where you're playing an opposition that's wounded, and that in itself was very telling.
Well, I mean, the game, it was a tale of two halves, though, too, right? I thought the first half was pretty awful, like for everyone. Like I think holistically, it was just not a good first half. But I think that's a fair point. That feels like a missed opportunity, or maybe the scouting wasn't. Maybe they didn't scout that game, or maybe they didn't interpret that game the same way you do with your eyes.
There was no way you could have watched that game and not thought, "Wow, Portland's really weak on the right."
Yeah. But then why didn't they attack it more? And why didn't I mean? Well,
maybe they thought that Portland were going to think, "Oh, they're going to attack that side because we were weak last week," and then they went to the other. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's look at the big talking points just from the second half, the big action point. So in the 58th minute, Diber Caicedo, ball in the back of the net, in off the post, lovely finish, foul in the build-up, goal chalked off. No complaints about that one.
No, that was definitely a foul on that one.
But then 2 minutes later, Portland go 2-0 up, and he's got a lovely goal. And no matter how many times you watch that back, I still don't know what Flo Youngworth was trying to do.
I wouldn't put all the blame on him. I agree that he had kind of like a spasm defending kind of thing where he was like he didn't know which way to go, but he was all alone on that right side. That's where you were proven right about nobody covering that side, because they switched play really quickly, and Raposo didn't get back fast enough, and that's where you had you're talking about your double shield of Berhalter and Tybert, and neither one of them covered for Raposo moving up the pitch. So I know Youngworth is the guy that's front center in the highlights for the thing, but there was a lot of other blame to go around there.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I agree with Steve. All goals, you'll be able to find multiple points where there's, mistakes made or things missed. And yeah, the glaring one is Flo kind of just, being taken. Or I think back in the day would have, actually, I don't think you could use that phrasing anymore. But yeah, he totally got beaten, like really, really bad. And he just smashed it in, right? There was nothing to it. But Steve's right. It was. You don't want to leave even your best and most experienced central defender that alone in that kind of situation.
No, and it kind of summed up how Youngworth's season has been, because before the season started, I had said for me he was one of my starting 3, and Steve, for you he wasn't, and for me now he definitely isn't.
No, yeah, there's obviously the Blackman thing, which I don't understand. I guess maybe he wasn't.
I don't think he could have gone the whole game.
Yeah, but
I was a bit surprised that they brought him on. But
The questionable one was Risky on not being on the field considering the other options. But overall, I had him like 4th or 5th on the depth chart, and with the injuries going on, it's. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be on the pitch, but you can definitely see where you don't want him there every game.
Now, the weird thing was, it took the Whitecaps to go 2 goals down before they really started to hit their stride. That also coincided with Russell Taibert getting taken off. Coincidence, Zach?
Many would say not.
Well, I think it's more Vite coming on. I would give more to that than Taibert coming off.
I know, I'm just being a little bit facetious. But no,
obviously,
that sub changed the game because Vite added that spark. And I think we saw the best half out of Gold, or even the best half hour out of Gold in that second half that we've seen all season so far.
For sure.
A lot of that really was sparked by Vite. And then the Whitecaps had chances. Berhalter had a long-range shot. White had a header that was just tipped over. Gold had a shot that was saved as well. And then the Whitecaps get back into it. 76th minute, lovely finish from Dahomey, showing what he can do in the attacking final third.
It's showing why he's on the pitch, right?
Yes.
Like that's why he's there. They want him to get in spaces like that and finish like that. And ultimately, I don't know if I said it before this way, but he feels like he's playing in that spot the way like my son and I put together our FIFA team, where we're like, we know this guy's good, he has pace, he can contribute to the team, and it sort of says like it's his 3rd or 4th position, so we can put him in there because we know we want him offensively to be able to score for us. And that's what it feels like. I mean, so he came through he came through all around, I think.
You also when you put him in the formation, you get a -4 next to his overall rating.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah. You're bang on, Steve.
I would also say, though,
credit to him, it was a great finish.
Yeah, but I would also say, if you're looking at it from a Portland point of view, or just a general point of view, no defence should allow a cutback to run that clean for that far to get to a player at the back of the box. So terrible defending.
But quality finish. Like,
it was.
Good placement, good power.
So gave the Whitecaps hope, and it was hope that lasted 2 minutes before Chara made it 3-1, and it was more defensive horror, Steve, and it was a bit fortunate for Portland, a bit unlucky at the same time for the Whitecaps, because it just took a bounce off Dahomey, and then Gutierrez just couldn't get a foot on it to try and get it clear or get a tackle in, and then Chara he never gave up on it, which was the thing. Yeah. And he should have, because it looked like he'd lost it, and that was just the killer blow in the end.
Yeah, that's another like FIFA bounce that to FIFA the game. But overall, there's nothing really you could do when it's a bounce like that. That's just a bad bounce for them. But credit to Chara for staying with it and knowing what to do and not hesitating when he got control of the ball. That was the key there.
I was disappointed it wasn't a bicycle, but it was a good finish.
Yeah, I mean, he's slipping now. It's like it's a couple of weeks now without one. I don't know what's happened to him. Going off the boil. And then the last couple of talking points, a tale of 2 penalties. 88th minute. Now, what do you think about it being a penalty? When I first saw it, I didn't think it was a penalty, but then you see that specific angle, face on, looking out from the goal, and for me, Gold was taken out, his leg was taken out, and it was a penalty.
For me, the Gold one, first off, was a really great, quick build-up play from the Caps with some nice passing on it. But I actually didn't think it was a penalty at all. So I was a little surprised when they looked at it. I didn't think it was a penalty until, I think you might have said this, Michael, the very last angle they showed, like if you were like as though you were the keeper.
Yes.
And then you saw this.
You saw the leg or the thighs taken out.
Yeah. I did feel like even though the touch from Gold is kind of at that same moment as he gets the contact, had there not been contact or the contact had been less invasive, that ball's gone. The defender has it. That ball's cleared. But
the thing is, you don't know if that contact caused the ball
exactly
to get away,
yeah.
So that's the thing. Is if it's at the same time, then you have to give the penalty. I wasn't sure if it was inside or outside the box. It was very close for me.
I mean, ended up getting given, and they're thinking, oh, they're going to be right back into this one. And Christian Dahomey steps up, and it wasn't a horrible penalty. He just didn't get the height on it.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't horrible, was it? But it wasn't good.
No,
it wasn't a good penalty.
And I mean, he has a short run up that I really usually do not like.
No, I don't like that either. I mean, if you want to talk about a good penalty, Aspria's in the first half. That was a lovely penalty.
And I thought him stepping out, I thought there's a chance he's going to miss this.
But that's the height that Dahomey had to get it. And
or get it closer to the post.
Yeah, and it was just clear before he got onto it, and you think, well, that's the blowing it.
But overall, for me, I feel that the keeper saw something in the build-up, and that's why he was able to guess right as well. Dahomey gave away where he was going to go, for sure.
Then they got a second penalty, deep into stoppage time. For me, I'm still not sure about this one. Diber Caicedo goes down, Petrescu gives it, he get called over to look at it, and sticks by his decision. Obviously didn't think it was clear and obvious to change his mind. I think Caicedo instigated it by going into Bravo, and then Bravo just kind of gives him a little nudge. I thought it was a soft one.
Yeah, that was a little soft, but I think they kind of met each other in a way. So I think that the fact that the defender was going towards Diber, I think that's the main reason it was called. For me, I think at that point, I don't think Petrescu was going to overrule it. I think he was just sick and tired of this VAR official. And by the end of it, I think they had a bigger rivalry than Timbers and the Whitecaps.
I think Petrescu is actually really wrong on this. And I think he just didn't want to be shown up by VAR. I think he feels like he got called out for missing the first one or whatever. And because to me, it's clearly shoulder to shoulder, and it's not a foul.
I don't think it was shoulder to shoulder, because you could see in the replay a little bit that was it Bravo? He did shove his hand forward, like his hand left his
from one of the angles. You do see a little push.
There was a push, so that for me, that's where I think the call was made, especially.
You're saying he uses open hand into the back of the player?
No, not open hand. He used his arm to shove.
Yeah.
Kind of like
I'm showing you open hand in here.
Right. But that's the thing, though. You can go shoulder to shoulder.
That's not shoulder to shoulder. That's a forearm.
No, it was kind of like a. For me, it was a slight push, but for me, I don't think it was enough to.
No, I don't think so either. But you also there's been calls where in the past where a bigger player will knock down a smaller one and the penalty will be given.
But that was why I think he didn't override it, because he sees that movement from Bravo and he thinks, well, I don't know, I'd have to really sit and analyse this, and we don't have time because we're in the 96th minute and I want to go home and have a nice pie and bovril.
Yeah, for me, there wasn't enough clear and obvious to warrant even a review on this one. Personally,
but to me, the arm is not involved in the pushing. The arms as he's racing up to the guy, and his arms just kind of extended, and they come together shoulder to shoulder. The arm that's where for me it wasn't clear and obvious. The fact that we can't even agree on that. That's why I don't think it should even be reviewed. But
let's just agree it was a penalty. Gold scored it. That's why you shouldn't trust Gold to taking the penalties, and it was 3-2. They had 2 minutes to try and get something going, and they tried to throw everything at it. And that's why I said I feel if they'd had an extra few minutes, Portland might have caved. But we'll never know. And it ended up as a 3-2 defeat. Vanni and Ranko in their post-game interviews both said they were pissed at the results. And quite rightly so, because I do feel the Caps were unlucky not to take anything from this. But just
who are they pissed at?
Everything. Ranko was pissed at some of the defending. He said he'd like to see that back, but just the effort that they put in and didn't get anything from it. And Vanni pissed at maybe not capitalising on the chances that they created, and I'm sure he was very pissed off at some of the defensive things as well. But
because they could really only be upset with themselves. Right?
Oh yeah, that's what they were pissed at. They were pissed off at themselves and not.
You miss a penalty and you defend like that, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Let's look at a glass half full, glass half empty, something. So glass half full, I think it was a good second half display. As I mentioned, probably Gall's best half of the season. Vite was good, as we talked about when he came on. Caicedo was busy at times, but we need to have him busy more often in the games. When he's on, he looks dangerous, but he drifts out of the game. I thought Berhalter is looking better with each game, and if we're only going with one DM, for me it's Berhalter, not Tybert. I just feel he offers a lot more, both defensively and attacking.
Defensively, they're probably even, but definitely attacking. There's more of an effort to get forward with his passes.
And I last glass half full one for me is they created chances and they were better in the final third, which is what Vanny's been asking for all season so far, is more penetration, more danger in the final third, more movement, more aggression. And they did that. They just didn't take the chances.
Yeah, they definitely created more chances than they have. I think felt like all season.
Any other positives, glass half full stuff you want to take out of this?
I think I don't think you mentioned just the fight back.
Yeah, fighting spirit.
Yeah, the
Good
fighting
to see.
spirit.
If we look at glass half empty, and we've touched on a lot of these, at times it looks like they can't defend for shit. Basically, just to put it bluntly. Flo didn't have the best game. I don't think Guti should be in a back three. He's not suited for that. The space that is just given up between the midfield and the wing backs at times, or the wing backs and the defence at times, it is like kind of scary. Poor depth, especially in attack. I don't think that Tybert is the guy that we need in the team just now. Any other negatives that we haven't touched on?
Well, the glass that's, I guess, just under three quarters full is how did it feel in the stadium, Michael, attendance wise? It did not look good on TV, especially because you had like the night before to compare it to, where it wasn't cram full, but it looked so much fuller.
Yeah, it's 16,772 was the official attendance.
But that's a crazy thing, because the official attendance for the Canada game was almost exactly 4,000 more, and it looked way more full.
But what I would say is the old curva section behind the goal for the women's game was pretty empty.
Oh yeah.
Whereas there was a lot of folk in that section for this one.
Yeah, we can talk about that if we're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
game,
we'll talk about that in part 3. It wasn't a fantastic crowd, a fantastic atmosphere, but I think what people must remember as well is the tarps have been removed, which shows a lot more empty seating. So if the tarps were there and you're looking at it as like visually, that was 22,500.
Right.
Now it's 27. So the gaps look a little bit more.
But most of those tarps aren't visible on TV, Michael. Like, I'm just talking on TV.
Oh, I don't know, because I didn't see it on TV. So
yeah.
But the other thing as well, it was a lot of folk were late getting in because the traffic was horrendous, because the Canucks were on, there was a concert on, there was a lot going on downtown yesterday, and I just made it in just before kickoff as well, because I tried to take a side route, and it proved to be a disastrous decision.
For me, a glass half empty would be not getting enough service in the box to like a Brian White. I felt like he was isolated way too much. I think he only had one opportunity, or maybe two. Actually, maybe two. The one in the first half, and I think there was one in the second half which was stopped near the crossbar. But overall, I just don't think that they had enough ball to get to him, and that's where you're talking about the wing backs. The wing backs had I felt like there was nothing going up the pitch. Like when they were central, they were fine, like Dahomey. But when there was nothing out wide that was a very attacking, dangerous.
A couple of just questions just to ask you to round up this bit of the Whitecaps chat. The transfer window is still open. And for me, I think the Whitecaps should be looking to be busy in it. I'd like to see them possibly bring in another central defender, because I think we maybe need that, because we still don't know what's happening with Eric Godoy, and we've got players like Jake Nerwinski that aren't really centre-backs that you're relying heavily on, and I think I'd also like them to add to the attack as well, and we know that the midfield's a problem, and that is apparently what they're saving the DP spot for. But they have to be busy, I think, before this window closes if they want to be competitive getting into the summer.
I mean, the DP spot, that's linked to the summer, right? Like
It seems to be, there's a number 6 that's going to be coming in.
Yeah, so it's not going to change that. I mean, I don't think it's time. I think we're past the time, Michael, where we can say we don't know what's happening with Eric Godoy. I think we all know what's happening with Eric Godoy because it's been almost the same his entire time here, except for maybe very, very early on. I mean, he's just injury prone, right? I don't know if you could say it any other nicer way, but so yeah, I think your shout at another center back option is maybe valid. However, we haven't heard anything right from Axel saying, "Oh, we're looking at this or we're doing that." So I wouldn't as much as it would definitely help them to make some additions while the window's open. I don't see them actually doing that. Do you?
Sadly, no. But I think they need to. Like I would be looking at teams that maybe have some excess centre backs, but could maybe do with a right back and just put Jake on that trading block and say, look, here's a guy that we can maybe do a little trade for.
Isn't this also where MLS Next Pro is supposed to help in terms of?
Well, yes, and for me, you've got Christian Campagna back there and his brother Mateo, who is on the MLS roster, and I like the two of them. But if you're not going to give them an actual look this season, you need to bring someone in this season.
Yeah, I feel like they need somebody at every level. They do need another central defender. It doesn't have to be a top central defender. I think Ranko and Blackman are probably your two top guys this year, but they need somebody in that 3-4 spot that can help out, especially if Godoy leaves. And then I think if you're saying the number 6 is coming this summer, then wait for the summer, try to figure that out. But I think they do need somebody up top as well, a striker. This doesn't need to be a number 1 or even a number 2 striker, but they need somebody off the bench. Maybe if they could find somebody like unearth another, and I'm not saying they're going to, but unearth another Brian White type who might not score as many goals as he did coming in, but can contribute off the bench.
I know you kind of talked about it during the game, Michael, but I mean, if you sign to St. Ricketts, surely it's for moments like that game where you're like, okay, we don't want to push this returning key striker beyond his limits.
Yeah.
That's why you have Toss. Whether you think he's gonna, score in every situation like that or not. Like, he really, to me, felt like he should have seen the field, even if it wasn't immediately to replace White, maybe to partner him. But it felt like if you sign him, he needs to try and make a contribution, or he needs to be given opportunity to make a contribution in games like that.
Yeah, and we've seen what he can do in MLS. I know that's now going back a couple of seasons now because he's just not had a run, but I think there was nothing to lose there. So, I mean, the Whitecaps are in tough at the moment, and they've got a 3-game road spell coming up. That is not going to be easy. There's Montreal next week, then it's a trip to Austin, then it's a trip to Seattle. That is 3 tough games. Before we get into Montreal, when I was watching the highlights of the game against Red Bulls, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what it would take to tempt them to trade Romel Kyoto for Lucas Cavallini. How much extra would we need to throw in? Would we need to throw any extra in? Yeah, we would. I'd take that, obviously. But let's look at Montreal, because it is going to be a tough game next week. They were pretty good against New York Red Bulls. They went to New York, they went 1 down, they came away with a 2-1 victory, and the goalkeeping God giveth, and then they taketh away for the Red Bulls, because the winning goal, I have no idea what he was thinking about there, but well taken by Kyoto.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer team, Michael.
Yeah, I was watching that and I thought you'd be delighted by that. But, I mean, Montreal, they've kind of kick-started their season a little bit. They had a tough start, and I've looked at their squad, and I said this before the season started, and they've got a very good playoff-bound squad, and they've been slowly climbing up the standings now. They've played 6 games, they've got 7 points, They're sitting on 9th. They're just 1 point back off the playoff places. They're 3 points back from third in the East, because the East's really, really tight just now. That is not going to be an easy game. And then you've got Austin, who are excellent at home, and then Seattle, who are just excellent. It's hard looking at these and thinking, what are the Whitecaps going to get from this? I mean, what are you expecting from these 3 games?
Just basically trying to hang on at this point, trying to get as much as what you can from these results. But you're right, it's not going to be easy. They gotta start off strong. Otherwise, they're going to be even more pressure to get more points, and that's where you make mistakes. So that first game against Montreal, they got to take advantage. They got to find the Camacho holes, and they got to take advantage of those holes.
Well, I mean, Camacho might be wholly at the back, but at the other end of the pitch, he scored a nice header this week for them. So, I mean,
don't let it fool you, Michael. Don't let it fool you.
Yeah, but it's like I was watching that going, oh, that's Whitecaps marking. I can see that happening next week. But the thing is, when you drop points at home, you've then got to go and make them up on the road. That's what all the coaches say. And you look at this stretch of games and you're thinking, Montreal might be our chance to grab something, but I don't know. They've got the bell ends there, and
yeah, I mean Montreal. I mean, sort of Vancouver going into these 3 games, Michael. I think one of the things we talk about with the whole lineup and whatever is, yeah, they need to be healthy. They need these players back, which we know is not going to happen overnight. But you talk about Godoy, you talk about Caio Alexandra. There's players, and then obviously Gold and White, being fully fit and being able to go 90 every game. Like, these are things they need. They absolutely need to be competitive. And so that's the first thing. Those things, I don't know. I guess Luca Cavallini being back as well.
Yeah, I mean, we might finally get to see Gold, Cavallini, and White leading the line
away to Montreal. That might be. You're talking about going out and then hitting them in the mouth, making coming at them right away. That would be a good way to do it. But I agree that it's more using what they have. I think the coaching staff really needs to have, I think, a little bit more cohesive of a plan, or a little bit better of a plan on how to get points in these games. Montreal will not be easy. Austin will not be easy, and Seattle will be very hard.
The thing, though, with Montreal is they've got the worst goals against record in the league so far. Well, tied. They've conceded 15 goals. I have San Jose in the West, and also Miami in the East, which are the 2 bottom teams of the 2 conferences.
But Montreal also is now, they're done in the Champions League, right? They have this up spell now, right?
Yeah. But I was also going to say Montreal are also the highest scorers in the East with 11.
Exactly.
And they're the second highest scorers behind LAFC and Austin in the West. So I could see a 2-0 win for Montreal in this. We won't do a big preview because I hope to maybe bring out a special midweek show, because we might have a few things to talk about midweek, and maybe get Eve on from Montreal and have a little chat with her as well from the Ball is Round podcast. Haven't asked her yet, so if she's listening to this is the first of her hearing that. I'm going to get in touch with her. But yeah, we might do that midweek. But I'm going 2-0 Montreal.
Well, I said 3-1 Portland, and it was so close.
Yes, I know.
Sorry. I think I said, in my memory, I said
no. Ben Cooper Whitecaps did point out that you said it was 3-1, and he was all set to blame you.
Yeah,
I think it'll be 3-3. I think they'll let Montreal score some goals, and Vancouver will take advantage of that bad defense.
Ooh. Okay, I will go. So, Michael, what did you have? 2-0 Montreal.
2-0. Although it is Easter weekend, so I am worried they could get crucified. But
oh my!
Or maybe they'll rise back from the dead.
Oh my. Well, I won't go contrary. I think it's good. I'll go let's say another 3-1 for Montreal.
Well, we won't do a big MLS roundup, mainly because I have not had a chance to watch too many of the games, but we'll give you the scores from around the Western Conference. And it was the LA Derby, Galaxy 2, LAFC 1. We'll come back to that one in a sec. RSL and Toronto drew 2-2. Dallas beat Colorado 3-1. Houston and San Jose, barn burner, 7-goal thriller, 4-3 to Houston. Nashville got the better of Sporting Kansas City. I will mention a little bit about this just now. Did you see what I tweeted out late last night? Someone tagged me in it. Johnny Russell went in the stands to fight a fan.
No.
Oh, you should see my tweet. Someone shouted something at him and he went over pointing, and the next thing he's climbing over the advertising and he's in the stand and his teammates have to pull him away.
Is he worried about the sardines and trawlers stuff?
I don't know, but it's like you can take the boy out of Scotland, but...
He pulled a Tim Howard.
What I think
MLS
this
will
is
not
a
be
sign
happy
is
with
you have to now just reunite Johnny and Ryan here. That was the sign for that to happen.
Maybe he's trying to get in with the Scotland national team by showing that he's Scottish and jumping into the stands and stuff like that.
You've got to see it. Check my Twitter. It was late last night. I retweeted that out. And then Austin beating Minnesota 1-0 in the Sunday game. So that was all
What
the
a goal.
action.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but the Charlotte beat Atlanta 1-0 thanks to an Olympico goal
Oh,
right off the
Olympico.
corner. Yeah,
Wow.
right off the corner.
I knew they beat them, and I've got that on the PVR, so I'll dig that out after we.
I watched so many
recording.
games this weekend. They're kind of blending together.
Yeah,
But,
I want to just quickly talk about the LA Derby.
Yeah.
That was exciting. A lot of controversial moments. Vela had a goal ruled out for the first half, and then Blessing got one ruled out in the 98th minute.
I don't remember the Vela one, but to me, the Blessing one, the angles I saw, he's offside.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as you saw it, although it was apparently it wasn't Blessing that was called, it was foul at the top of the box that they called it. So
Still,
yeah,
that was offside.
yeah. 11 bookings in this one as well. That's what you want from a derby. Well, that's what I want from a derby. Maybe MLS aren't wanting that, but
It was good. It was good for Vanny. Greg Vanny was very good for him.
oh, I thought you meant Vanni Sartini. I thought did he have money on the Galaxy? But
No. And then there were also went after the ref after I think DeSantis had to hold his players back.
yeah, which I thought was ironic because it was usually MDS that was going after the refs after the games.
Yeah.
But we'll rattle through the standings just to finish this part off. LAFC out on top, 13 points from their 6 games played. Galaxy in second, 12 points from their 6. So there's no unbeaten teams now in the West. Salt Lake are third on 12, Austin fourth on 11, Dallas fifth on 11, Houston sixth on 11, and then Nashville taking that 7th and final playoff spot for now with 10 points. Then you've got Portland on 9, Colorado on 8, Minnesota on 8, Seattle on 7, Kansas City on 6, Vancouver second bottom on 4, and then propping up the West at San Jose on 2. I just want us to come and play San Jose soon, but we're still a few games away from that. They're still winless. They're probably looking and going, I wish we were playing the Whitecaps soon as well. But that is it for our Whitecaps and MLS chat, but it's not it for our Whitecaps chat, because we are going to be back looking at Whitecaps FC2 with their home opener at Swangard and another Cascadian derby against Timbers 2. We'll be back chatting about all of that and have some fun audio out of those games as well after this.
Hi, I'm Ryan Gold, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Creeping up the backstairs, linking into dark stars. Shapeless and slumped in back chairs. Out of home. She has many gases. She'll do what you want her to. Playing dead and sweet submission. Tries to win your head on cue. Peekaboo, 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 peekaboo.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our Artist of the Month for April here at AFTN. English post-punk band Susie and the Banshees. That was their first single from the band's 9th studio album Peep Show, released in 1988, Peekaboo. A little bit different from them. Really like that one. We've got one more song to come in this episode from Susie and the Banshees. That'll be kicking off the next part. But in this part, we're going to be turning our attentions still on the Whitecaps, but to Whitecaps FC 2. The home opener took place on Sunday at Swangard Stadium. Great to be back at Swangard, bringing all the memories back to me of when I first moved over here, watching the Whitecaps back in the USL days. It was a 2-2 draw after 90 minutes. The Whitecaps dominated the match from start to finish. They should have been out of sight. They were hit by 2 goals against the run of play, but they fought back twice, including a dramatic stoppage time equaliser that took the game to penalties. They lost the penalty shootout 4-1. I think they used up all their finishing before then. But it was an entertaining game. They at least get a point out of it. They don't get the bonus point for losing the shootout. But it was great to see them back at Swangard, Steve, and it was a very entertaining game.
Yeah, it was. They had a lot of attack. They were pressing. There was a lot of good play from the wide areas, and the 2 attacking players, like I think it was Beecher and Herdman in the middle. They had their chances, but it's just not able to connect. Unfortunate. And I think the Portland keeper, he had some pretty good saves in there to deny them chances. But overall, yeah, very entertaining game. And I agree that the Whitecaps should have had this game done and dusted like sooner, like so that Timbers, even their goals wouldn't have been effective.
I think once they tied it up at 1 apiece, they were just going for it. They wanted that win, and that's what got them caught out against the run of play to go 2-1 down. But the fighting spirit that they showed, we talked about it in the first part. They're mirroring the first team's fight in that regard. But this is a very exciting team to watch. I don't know what the official attendance was. I think it would probably be around the 1,000 mark. It certainly looked like that. But if you're in any doubt about getting out to watch this team, watch the highlights from this, because it was an entertaining match and some good talent on display. Any players stand out for you?
The issue was that you used like some positions, like the commentator. I didn't trust him to know who the players were. I couldn't see anything. The camera was so far back. But like I said, I feel like the players from the wide areas, they did really well. I don't know which one was doing because they swap back and forth too. You could tell that they swap back and forth because the camera was so far away. You could actually see them changing sides. But again, I think they did well. I think that strikers did well. So it's hard to, like, you have to be there in person to see the players. And the team came together so quickly, you really didn't have time to get to know the players either. Yeah. So it's difficult. But I think, like, overall as a team though, I thought they played really well.
That's why you should check out AFTN, because we've got our profiles over 4 parts of all the players on the team. For me, Simon Beecher, who was leading the line early, I thought he was excellent. He had a number of good chances. He looked lively. And then Owen Antoniuk got both the goals when he came on as a sub, and he looked good. Ali Ahmed, I thought was good out on the left as well. And I really liked the defensive partnership. The 2 Campagna brothers, Christian and Matteo, and Simone Massey back there was good as well. But yeah, this is why you should get out to watch the games in person, because the streams are problematic. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. But
and the biggest issue was for me, I don't know if anybody else had this issue, but it was constantly the audio was going out. I think I had to refresh it like a number of times. Like, it made me appreciate the CPL streams more with the way this one was going.
That's disappointing. Also, the guy that was calling the game was calling it from his house in Kansas City, which I don't get that. Not ideal.
I don't get that, why MLS is doing that. Like, why not have, if you're developing players in the league and everything like that, why not develop some play-by-play people and get some local people?
Well, see, apparently that's what they've done, because I read somewhere that they've signed a deal with ESPN for their up-and-coming commentators to do these games. But
they're doing nothing so far away.
Yeah, nothing beats being there in person to commentate on it, and actually knowing who you're talking about as well, and having invested in it. But maybe it'll change. It is the start of the season, and we'll see what goes with that. But that was our thoughts on the match. It was entertaining, disappointing to lose. But after the game, I caught up with Nick Dasovic just to get his thoughts on the game and how the team played. Here's what he had to tell me. So Dazo, home opener, a tough one. Not quite sure how you didn't come away with a win after that. Dominated. and two goals against the run of play, really.
You know, when we go, we go with a game plan to keep the football, to move it from side to side and try to penetrate, which I thought the boys did really well. A little nerves in the beginning. Again, it's a home game. They're not used to playing on grass. I know it's not an excuse, but it really is something for these guys. These guys grew up on turf, so the different type of, the ball moves differently. But I thought they did everything we asked them to do. We couldn't get the goal in the beginning, and then we get sucker punched a little bit. But we have this idea about us, an identity where we don't give up. And even when they scored the second goal that late, we didn't give up, and we kept going at them, kept going. That's going to be our motto. And so for me, the boys, that they came back and they went to draw the game was perfect. But, we'll talk about, can we score the goals that matter? And I think the first team, we just talked to Vanny here, the first team went through the same scenario last night. So it comes down for just having confidence from the goal. A lot of these guys, some of them, it was their first pro game again tonight, so it's a lot to ask of the guys. But from what I wanted from the players and the staff, they give us everything we wanted. So hats off, except when the penalty kicker. So,
yeah. I mean, you touched on it there. I was going to say the last two games, you've shown a lot of fight. Heads haven't gone down. You've come back in both games. It's the kind of spirit you want from the guys.
I learned a real valuable lesson when I worked at San Jose Earthquakes back in the early, 2011 or 13-14 with Mark Watson, and those guys were made. They never gave up. And I got that. And no, it was something really interesting. So I try to bring that same identity here. Look, guys, it could be, and we practice it at training. We do scenario training. Look, we're down 2-0. Let's go. We're down 1-0. We're down a man. We do all the scenario trainings to get them prepared for those moments. And I think you just see today, no one gave up. It was really impressive. And look, we lost the game in penalties, but I'm happy we grinded a point out at the end of it. But again, happy for the kids.
Just last thing, it's 3 games so far. First one was a bit of an up and down game, but then last week against Real Monarchs, excellent performance, came away with a shootout win. So it's 3 points now from the first 3 games.
Yeah.
How do you kind of summarise what you've seen so far from these 3 games?
I haven't looked at the table yet, to be honest with you. I don't even look at the table. I don't know if that's wrong or right, but I just don't have any reason to look. But I just don't look at it because it doesn't mean anything to me right now. What means to me is the type of football we play and try to put them in situations of stress a little bit, because the way we try to play and try to move the ball, I want to get these kids ready for Vanier one day, and hopefully sooner than later that they can actually go in and perform, and I think that's the biggest thing for me. So there's been a gradual performance increase every time, and I think the guys feel it, and we're just going to keep moving on from it. But I'm happy with it. I'm proud of the kids. It's they love it. They're playing in front of a crowd too, and it's good for them to finally taste this.
Great. Thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you next game.
No problem.
Cheers, man. Nick Dasovic there, just sharing some of his thoughts from the Whitecaps draw/loss against Timbers 2 at Swangard on Sunday afternoon. We will have coverage of Whitecaps FC 2 on AFTN all season long, on the site and the written side, on the podcast as well. You know how much we love this team. We want to bring you that coverage. We want to encourage you to get out and watch this team. And I thought it was nice as well. We spoke that some of the guys were going away with Canada's under-20 team. So you've got Jay Herdman, Mateo Capagna, Eric White from Whitecaps FC 2 are going away with the Canada under-20 team to Costa Rica for a training camp and a couple of games. Cam Habibullah over in Pacific as well. So I thought it was nice that they were all allowed to play their games for their club teams this weekend and then join up with the camp, as opposed to them missing this. For a number of these guys as well, it's a big thing to play their home opener in front of family, in front of friends, in front of fans, at a historic place like Swangard Stadium as well. And even though they lost, you could tell afterwards, just from seeing the players' reactions and interactions with the fans, just how much they enjoyed it. And as I said to Steve there was a few good standout performances. And one of the players that's really impressed me in the first 3 games of the season so far has been attacking midfielder, stroke forward, because he has been used in the forward role, but primarily he is a number 10, and that is Jay Herdman. So I got a chance to catch up with Jay on Friday before this game, just to talk about him signing his first pro deal, what it's been like starting off the season with WFC2, and his call up to the Canadian national team as well, and lots more. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice and sit back and enjoy our feature interview for this episode with WFC2's Jay Herdman. Thanks for joining us today, Jay. It's nice to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're recording this on Friday, so it's before the home opener on Sunday, but it's going to go out on our show after the home opener. But I'll talk a little bit about Sunday just to kick things off. How excited are you to get this home opener playing at Swangard, a stadium that means so much to the Whitecaps' history over the years and is one of the best playing surfaces in the Lower Mainland?
That's exciting. I don't think many of us have really played in front of a home environment where there's fans and stuff. I know a couple of us have played in front of like parents and stuff, but no, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I know you played there before because you had the friendly with the Tigers that I'd commentated on that game, and you had a really good performance there. I imagine just like all round just now, there's a lot of excitement going on in the Herdman household. Has it been tough to kind of just keep focused and just like look on these games?
I'm getting a lot of people asking me about how gassed the family is and like what everything's like, but kind of used to it now. I've been having it for a couple of years, so it's not too hard, but I'm more focused on myself.
That's good. That's what you want to do. So we're going to talk about you in this show because that's what we want to know about. So you've been in the Whitecaps academy system since you were a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
What's it been like working through the ranks and now signing your first professional contract?
It's been tough, like a lot of up and downs, but it's been a really good learning point for me. The first year at Whitecaps, we were playing older teams, so we had to get used to playing bigger people. And then the second year, it was more getting used to like actually getting the quality up now. So like playing proper MLS teams, academies, going to tournaments. And then it's just been a really big learning point for me. And signing this contract is just the next step. Hopefully I can push forward.
So when did you kind of realise that you probably had what it took to turn pro in the game? Coming from a footballing family, obviously it's like football's in your blood and you're living and breathing it. But when did you know that you actually had what it took to be a footballer?
Probably when I was a little kid. I don't know. I've always this has always been my game. I never really known anything else. In New Zealand, we didn't really play anything else either. It's just football, a little bit of rugby, but no. Probably realized I didn't even know. And I've always thought of myself as a pro, so I think it helps.
Yeah, that does. I mean, who were your kind of footballing idols then when you were growing up? Because I guess like Newcastle, you've probably had to endure watching a lot of them over the years. So,
yeah.
Who did you kind of admire as a footballer?
As a kid, it was Messi. I was in love with Messi. There was Neymar's, Coutinho's, and now it's St. Maximin for Newcastle.
I guess you didn't have any choice in being a Newcastle fan. You didn't want to be a Sunderland fan just to piss your dad off?
No, I wish.
So if someone was if they haven't seen you play, like what is your game like? What are you going to bring to this team? When we were putting together on this site, we did profiles for all the guys on the team. So I was digging out old videos and I came across some of your goals that you've scored in the academy, and you've got one hell of a right foot on you. You've scored a couple of absolute golazzos. How would you describe your game to people?
Probably just a small attacking midfielder. Tries to create stuff, score goals, can go on a dribble. And just create stuff pretty much.
And you've had 2 starts so far in the MLS Next Pro season. How have you found the step up? I mean, you talked there about in the academy it was tougher because you're playing against older groups. This league's really weird because different teams are approaching it in different ways. Some teams are really young, Whitecaps being one of them. Yeah. Some guys, it's going to be some of the really older fringe MLS guys that you're going up against. But in the 2 games so far, how have you found the step up?
It's a lot different than what we're used to. I think for the last year and a half, we've just been playing preseason games against local men's teams here. So I guess it's kind of helped to get us ready for like us being physically capable to play at that level. But now it's just like the speed of play, the quality of players, a lot of first team guys coming down to play in this league. So it's been tough, but like you learn when you play better opposition. So it's been good.
I was gonna to ask you about playing against the men's teams, because you had some friendlies last year with the under-23s, and then the 19s have been playing in the Fraser Valley this league, and there's some good teams in there. There's some quality players that you've been going up against. FC Tigers, I know well. We do some commentary for them as well. How did you find that? Because I know in the past, when Whitecaps have had teams in those leagues, you're going to go up against some guys that's like, oh, they think they're a good player, I want to show them, and crunching tackles and stuff like that. So how did you find that winter season?
When I went to the 19s, it was different. It was like what we're used to anyways. Big like guys just wanting to scrap, big tackles, but that's football, and like I enjoy that. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a good preparation for you as well. And like at 17, you're one of the youngest guys on the Whitecaps 2 team. You're going to be one of the youngest guys in the league. But you seem to have hit the ground running. You got your first assist, your first professional assist last week in that win over Real Monarchs. How was that moment for you? Is that a special moment for you to get your first assist? First goal still to come, which I'm sure will be pretty soon, but how did you enjoy that moment?
I wasn't even thinking about the assist, to be honest. It was a fighting game. We had to come back from 1-0 down. So as soon as the ball went in to go up 2-1, I was just happy that we scored. And I wasn't really thinking about the assist as much. I was just glad we got the goal in and got the 2 points.
Yeah, like the game last week, it was a much improved performance between the game in Houston and then the win over Real Monarchs. Is it just been a case of the team kind of still finding their feet, just gelling? And what would you say you would put the improved performance between game 1 and game 2 down to?
I think the first game, I think for a lot of us, it was our first professional game, so it was just nerves and playing in front of fans. So getting over that, and then just like and believe in each other. Daso, we have good tactics, so I think we just got more fluid when the game started, and now we're at home. So I think no travel, so I think we'll be even better this week.
And there's a lot of firsts. First professional game, you've had your first professional assist, and now you've had your first call up with the Canadian national team as well. You're going to be going down to Costa Rica after this game. What does that mean to you, getting this call up and the chance to hopefully then go on and play in the under-20 CONCACAF championships with a berth at the World Cup on the line?
Oh, it's a dream come true, pretty much. So it's an honor to play for your country. And especially with 2 tough games against Costa Rica, just being able to represent your country is always an honor and a dream to come true.
You're eligible to play for Canada, New Zealand, yes, England, sadly, but did your dad leave it open and say whatever country you want to play for, that's fine? Or has he been like, no, it's got to be Canada?
No, my dad... pretty much it's my career, so he's like, it's all in your hands. Whatever you pick with, he's happy with. Yeah, it's pretty much all me. So yeah.
So what would you say your ambitions are? You're obviously wanting to be a pro. Are you just looking to take it one step at a time, or is your next target like the Whitecaps first team?
Yeah, I think that's probably the main goal, is try and get as first team as possible. Get a first team contract, try and play in the MLS, and then from there, go into the bigger leagues and stuff like that. I think that's the main goal.
So do you ever wind your dad up that you're actually a better footballer than he ever was?
Oh, of course I am. Yeah, no, of course.
I've wondered about that, because it's like I don't have any kids, but I always think if I had a son and he was a footballer with way better skill than me, I'd be so proud of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to talk too much about your dad because it's like we want this to be about you, but has it been difficult trying to find a foothold in the game when you are the son of the national team coach?
It was at first. Everyone was saying, "Oh, you're just on the team because your dad, you're not absolutely good," but you get over it. Like I'm used to it pretty much now. Yeah, just let the football do the talking pretty much.
Yeah, that's what you need to do. And I guess you're in a unique situation because, like on WFC2, you've got the son of the head coach on the team with you, with Lucas. And then on the first team, there's the weird situation that we have here that you've got Greg Berhalter's son playing in that. Because you probably saw some of the pictures I tweeted out from the Blues versus Whites game. I was trying so hard to get pictures of you together. Like, has there been any banter between the two of you, or have you not really interacted that much?
No, Sebastian. No, yeah, we've talked a couple of times. No, he's a great guy. Yeah, people probably think we fight all the time, but no, when I see him, we say hello. He congratulated me and my dad and stuff like that, and qualifying for the World Cup. So, no, he's a great guy.
Fantastic. So, just to finish this off, you don't have to share too much of this if you don't want to, but what's your kind of hopes for this season? You've obviously set yourself some personal goals that I won't ask you to share too much of, but what are you hoping for personally? What do you feel your game needs to develop in over the course of this year?
Well, I think my goal is definitely get as many goals as I can, assist if I'm playing, especially in the attacking midfielder role. I think assists, goals, successful dribbles, passes going forwards, passing breaking lines. I think that's a big thing for attacking mid. But I think now I just need to get used to probably playing these bigger guys, older guys, more experienced guys, and just like get used to taking hits, falling over, winning fouls, just being more smart when I'm on the ball, playing one touch and stuff like that.
Fantastic. And I don't know if you even know this yet, but like, are you able to go to Qatar with your dad? Like, can he bring family with him or not? Or
no, yeah, I think we're in off season, so I think me and the family are gonna go.
Fantastic. That'll be amazing. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time today, Jay. I wish you all the very best. Look forward to seeing you on the pitch again at Swangard on Sunday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Man, take care.
Good luck.
Great catching up with Jay Herdman there, just chatting about him signing his first pro deal. I've liked what I've seen from Jay. I think he's a very, very good prospect for the Whitecaps, and he's going to have a really good year with WFC2, and then let's see what the future brings for him. And as we said there, it is always fun when you're a much better footballer than your dad, and I'm sure Jay is winding his dad John up about that a lot because he's going to be playing at a higher level than John did. Maybe he'll move into management one day, but he's going to have a hard act to follow with his dad in that regard. That is for sure. But that is it for our Whitecaps 2 chat in this episode. But it's not it for this part. We're going to bring you this week's wavelength a little bit earlier this show. And for this week, we are going back to 1996 and a band that we featured a number of times. Norwich band Halftime Oranges. They've got a couple of albums out that are all football themed. This is taken from their 1996 album, Clive Baker Set Fire to Me, and this is called Single Leather Football.
But someone always missed him off and get it.
Halftime oranges there, single leather football. It's my ball, I'm taking it home. That was always the kind of jokey thing when you were a kid and you didn't get your way on the football pitch. Maybe that was just what it was like in Fife. But that is it for this part. We will be back with more Canadian football chat after this.
Hi, I'm Martin Nash, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
She tries not to shatter, kaleidoscope style, personality changes behind her red smile. Every problem brings a stranger inside, hopelessly forcing on minor disguise. Christine, the strawberry girl, Christine, banana split lady, Christine, the strawberry girl, Christine, banana split lady. Savages lost in our world. This big-eyed girl sees her faces unfurled. Now she's in purple, now she's a turtle, disintegrating. Christine, the strawberry girl, Christine, banana split lady, Christine, the strawberry girl, Christine, sees her faces unfurled.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the second of our songs from our Artist of the Month here at AFTN this month, Susie and the Banshees from 1980 and their album Kaleidoscope, and that was Christine. And if you're a football show and you're talking about Christine in Canada, who else do you think of but Christine Sinclair? And Christine Sinclair was back in BC with the rest of her gold medal winning team playing against Nigeria at BC Place on Friday evening. And we're going to talk about that to kick off this part, as we're going to be turning our attention to look at the Canadian national and club scene in what has been a busy few days for both. The women returned to BC, played the first of two gold medal celebration games at BC Place on Friday night, 2-0 victory over Nigeria in front of over 20,000 fans. We touched on this in the first part, Zach. I'll just bring you in right away. What was with the Voyageurs section? Because that looked very empty on Friday night.
Yeah, there were a number of people who couldn't be there because they were sick. So yeah, I don't know if Jamie actually even made it into the stadium, or he did, and then there were some issues. I don't know all the issues, but like, yeah, I couldn't be there. I was homesick this week with something that the tests tell me was not COVID. But I was, I mean, I was talking to you.
Tuesday you had the night, AFTN lurgy.
Yeah, I was just like, Michael, I feel really bad. And then I woke up the next morning and felt like, awful. So I spent the whole week in bed. So it was, I was sad not to be there. I know they sold less tickets than normal to begin with, which was kind of disappointing. And there was some discussion over the cost of the game. The game was a little bit, I know it was for Celebration Tour. CSA is trying to make money, but even the Voyageurs tickets were like the cheapest, or some of the cheapest I think you could get in the ground, depending on if maybe you had a group rate or with a team, or I don't know what they did with like club teams or whatever, but it's generally the cheapest or almost the cheapest ticket you can get in the ground. And so, it was a little bit surprising, but I do know there were a number of people who were commenting on social media saying like, I would have been there, but I'm stuck in isolation, right? Like, Chris Corrigan was saying that, and Walter Siu, who travels all over to watch Voyageurs games with the Voyageurs, and then Jamie, I think I know he posted some stuff about his disappointment and holding his hand up for some of the stuff, but also just saying some of the stuff didn't happen because we had a bunch of people not be able to be there.
So Jesse Fleming opened the scoring for Canada in the 50th minute, then a Vanessa Gillet header in the 72nd gave them the win. But this wasn't a match about the result. It was all about the celebrations and the chance to enjoy the gold medal win, say goodbye to a stalwart, celebrate some milestone achievements, all of which I felt they did very well, and the crowd reactions were excellent.
Yeah, I think they did well to honor the team. They did well to honor Christine Sinclair's goal scoring achievement. They did well to obviously celebrate Labe's, hanging up her boots.
Yeah, Labe was subbed off a minute into the second half so that you could get the ovation.
Yeah, but that was the one thing where I was just like, this was not planned well, right? You want to do it at a time when everyone's there
at the seats.
Yeah, at their seats to do it. Like with either even if they probably would have to wait till at least the 60th minute before everyone's back from going to the bath, waiting in line for the bathroom or waiting in line for food or whatever. It felt awkward I know they wanted to do it around the half, but it felt
I never actually thought of that. That's
because there would have been people who would have, if they didn't know, they would have missed out.
You could say it at the halftime, but I rarely ever see substitutions like that where they honor somebody at halftime. It's usually in the 60th minute or the 55th
I
somewhere around there.
I remember seeing someone taking off a minute into
I've never seen that at all.
Half.
Personally, I think it was a mistiming.
It was an emotional exit. It was like the passing of the torch. Kaylin Sheridan came on, and the Canadian goal feels in good hands. Yeah.
She made I think the save of the game. It was also great the halftime honoring the old players, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, ones who used to see play at Swangard back in the day. So many of them.
Christine Sinclair subbed off to a huge ovation in the 77th minute. Could this be the last time we see her at BC Place?
Yeah, it definitely could be.
On the pitch.
It definitely could be. It's too bad because she should have had 4 goals.
But we've said that before too. Could this be the last time we see her? And she's played a number of
I know. We'll be talking about this in 10 years' time going, is this going to be the end of 49-year-old Sinclair?
She played well.
I think they'd bring her back one more time or have a testimonial or something for her.
Exactly.
Oh, that would be lovely.
That's the other thing about the attendance. I know I don't want to engage in the whole national conversation, but there are people who are like, oh, look at the attendance. And again, part of it is pre-kickoff images or whatever that people are looking at. But there's some people are like, oh, the ground should, it should have been filled. Like they should have opened up the whole thing, whatever. And, I was saying to someone last Friday night or last night, they could sell out BC Place, but I think you need to give a much more lead up time than what they gave, right? They announced the game, 4-6 weeks ago? Like, it needed more. Like if they had announced when they announced their first games in the fall, if they had said, hey, we're going to be in BC in the month of April, back then, and they put the tickets on sale, once the MLS and Canadian Premier League schedules had come out or something, assuming that was, part of the logistical stuff for them. I think,
and before the cost of gas and living had gone through the roof for many people as well. They could have bought their tickets.
The cost of living with what's going on in the world right now, sure, yeah, that's probably a factor for sure. But if these tickets had been available in January or even halfway through February, I think they would have easily have filled the lower bowl and could have potentially added sections in the upper bowl if they wanted to. But all in all, I think it was when you talk to people who were there, it seems like they really enjoyed it and had a great time. I heard the Nigerians were great supporters.
Yeah,
drumming
there was a lot of them there. It was good to see, and it was nice to see so many families and young girls there. And it was a very different crowd to the next night with the Whitecaps.
Yeah, and the Nigerian team was up for it. I know the score was what it was, but I don't think they were super easy opponents for Canada.
No, which was also surprising considering that they were down to the bare bones.
Yeah, but they were, there was that too. But I don't know. There's just something about the spirit. Did you see the video of them coming into the stadium?
No,
out of their bus in the stadium, and they have I don't know if it's a dance or if it's a whatever. No, but they get low, and I don't know. It was just really cool. You can just tell they're so excited to represent their country. There's this unity amongst their squad. And there's on the pitch, they gave Canada some problems, and it was good. Now, the one thing that was against them, I think they had at least four, maybe five players who went off with issues, I think, from not being used to BC places surface, because they had a number of subs that looked like they were injuries or tinges or muscle issues or whatever from playing on a surface that they're not used to. But I don't know. I was concerned about the opponent, kind of like it wasn't a bigger quote unquote bigger name opponent, but I thought it was on the whole, I thought it was a really good game.
So we mentioned Christine Sinclair there, and this game was celebrating her record-setting goal-scoring achievement, along with the winning of the FIFA Best Award. And for all the women that were honoured and celebrated on Friday night and will be in Langford on Monday as well, they have and still are carrying the banner for women's soccer in this country and championing the talent coming through along the way as well, and the desperate continued need for at least a pro team, ideally teams plural, and even more ideally a league to call our own. Yes, League One BC is coming, League One Ontario exists, there's the NWSL down in the States, but that's not given these women the living that they need in their home country. Will it take the likes of Steph LeBay and Christine Sinclair to retire and maybe follow Karina LeBlanc into front office roles to get things moving? Would that interest Christine Sinclair? And what does she make of having a league for young women in League One BC in her home province? Well, let's find out, because I got a chance to speak to Christine a couple of weeks ago. I've been saving the little interview to bring you when we were talking about these games. So let's hear just now from Christine Sinclair. Hi, Christine. Just thinking about your own journey from starting playing as a 4-year-old, coming through the system here in BC. You had to move away. Rianne and Karina talked about having to move away to get careers. The domestic game in Canada seems to be moving at a glacial pace to try and get teams in a league here. But in BC this year, there is League One BC launching. There's 7 new outlets for young female players to come through. How important do you feel that league is for the next lot of Christine Sinclairs to come through in BC?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not an expert on this topic, but for me, it makes sense that there would be professional environments in Canada. I think we're, the only team in the top 10, 15, 20, maybe even that don't have a professional environment. I know it's challenging, but other countries have seemed to pull it off. We're not saying it has to be this massive league like an NWSL. Like, we understand that in Canada, you start small and grow. Because I think, very few players make national teams. That's the reality of our sport. But it doesn't mean that players' careers should be over. Right now, there's limited options in the US with the NWSL, or you have to go overseas, and it's not doable for everyone. And I really care about the future of this program. Worry that with lack of investment that, sooner or later we might be passed by other countries that are investing tons and tons of money to support their women's programs. So yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge in Canada moving forward if we don't get professional environments available.
Have you given a lot of thought to your post-playing career? Would you like to go into coaching? Would you like to own a club? Would you like to be a GM like Karina?
I'm never going to see a soccer ball. No. Yeah, obviously I'm going to stay involved in the game, whether that's in the coaching side of things, in the technical side of things. That's probably where I'm leaning. But I can't imagine being a head coach. The stress that Bev and Rian here in Portland are under, I don't want to experience that, at least anytime soon. So maybe I'll start as like an assistant coach or something like that.
Christine Sinclair there. So don't expect Sink in a head coaching role or a GM role or an ownership role, at least anytime soon, but she would like to still be involved in the game, a little bit involved in the coaching side, but we know she doesn't like the limelight, the spotlight, so one of those roles. She's not a Karina LeBlanc.
No.
I
very different personality.
Yeah, I don't mean that in any bad way. It's just she's so humble for someone that's so talented. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what she chooses to do with her time when she's done playing football.
Yeah,
but
which I still think is going to be a few years.
I hope she'll go to at least she gets 200 for Canada. That's the big thing I'm hoping for. But yeah, I mean, I think she loves playing in Portland, and yeah.
I mean, that is her home now. And League One BC, it is a positive start here for the men and the women's game at that level in British Columbia. I'm excited for the season to come and beyond, and it's going to get underway next month. It's been confirmed that League One BC, League One Ontario and the Quebec League will be having a tournament of 4 teams in Laval in August.
Yeah.
So that's the start of hopefully having a national championship for League One BC and their ilk across Canada. Now, some of you that are extra subscribers, and if you're not, $30 a year, $3 a month. You have got our latest extra podcast during the week where Zach and me chatted a little bit about the women's game coming up at BC Place that was passed there on Friday, and we brought you some audio in it as well. And I just want to play a little bit of the audio that we did play in that extra podcast just to bring it to a wider audience, because I got a chance to ask the 2 new female Hall of Fame Canada Soccer members, Martina Franco and Reen Wilkinson, just for their thoughts on like League One BC come in, the need for a women's league and stuff like that. So here's what they had to tell me. When you were playing, Martina, obviously there was professional opportunities or semi-professional opportunities. There was club games in Canada. Could you imagine that the women's national team would have got to where they are, but at the same time the club game would have disappeared off the face of the earth, really, in terms of a high level in Canada? And what would you like to see now for the club game in the country?
Yes, it's really disappointing that the club games at over 18 has disappeared in Canada. It's just unheard of it's unprecedented at the success of our Canadian women's team, and for the success of women's soccer across the world. I cannot reiterate how important it was for me, my success, to be able to play all year round. And we were lucky. I was lucky at my time of playing with Canada Women's Soccer that we were funded to be able to play full time. Unless you were in university, there was nothing for you in the winter, unless there wasn't a club to play for. So we were fortunate to have funding to be able to play all year round. So now clubs are finally, players, when they're out of university, can play. They can play in Europe, in the States. It's amazing. It's exciting for everybody, and I'm so happy for them and envious that they can choose to play in Spain or France or England or America. And we need to have a Canadian league. Art, can you imagine how much more talent we would develop if we had a Canadian team where not only the top 30 players in Canada would be able to play for a club team, you would have 100 of the top Canadian players developing, and so you never know what kind of talent you would develop in their 20s. I didn't peak until my 30s, so we're missing out on those players that drop off after university soccer, that maybe didn't peak in university. And that was myself. I didn't peak in university. I peaked when I played for the Whitecaps, and I was and luckily Evan Pellerud recognized that and brought me on and developed me even further. And then even when I went to play for the LA Soul when I was 29 or 30 years old, I improved tenfold even by playing 1 year for the LA Soul. So you can imagine if we had a league in Canada, how, more fantastic we would be.
Yeah, if I can, Mar, I think it's almost a broken record. You're hearing the same thing from women's players, and it's important you do. I think we're missing the point sometimes. There's a reason that the CPL is not attached to the MLS. The MLS is for the few that are already making it. They're already on the national team. They're already known names. We're talking about the reality of players after university. Now, if they haven't gone to the US or Canadian university and they don't have a foreign passport, they cannot continue with their career because they will not be able to go to Europe or to the US because they will be considered a foreign athlete and they will cost so much money that it won't be worth it for those teams. It's a very rare player that will go that's not already playing for the national team. So we're all the women's players and a lot of the men are waving the flag just so people understand that at this time, if you are 21 and have not made the national team, your career is over if you're a Canadian. And it's beyond shocking. And that I want everyone to understand why we're waving this red flag, because we are performing so well. And if we're not using this moment to start a league, and we're not saying like blow it out of the water financially, we just need something in place that we can build on, because right now at 21, you're retiring, and that it cannot be what we do in Canada to our athletes.
Rain Wilkinson and Martina Franco there just chatting about League One BC, the urgent need to get professional leagues in this country for women. We've talked about it so much and we have to keep talking about it because it's only keeping it up there that's hopefully going to get some change.
For me, League One is probably more important for the women's game right now because they need to build that depth. So if hopefully a full league or teams come in, that they can pluck some players from that and create like a full roster.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think I might have said this before, Michael, but my understanding is that there are those involved in the game in Canada who are working at the long-term solution for this.
Yes.
Now, that might not be helpful in the moment. And there's no timeline that I know of. But there are people who are working to make this happen.
Well, the Canadian Premier League has long said they want to have a women's league as well. So, I mean, that is hopefully something that is going to come down the line. But, I mean, you really are needing it sooner rather than later. I mean, the fact that Martina Franco hung up her boots, maybe 10 years or so ago, and when she was playing, there was professional women's teams in Canada. When I moved to Canada, there was professional women's teams, or semi-professional at least, in Canada. Yeah. And now you've gone to nothing. But the game has come on leaps and bounds, and you've won a gold medal, and it's kind of crazy. But yeah, the CPL will hopefully add a women's division down the line. Let's turn our attention now, though, to the CPL men's division, because the 2022 Canadian Premier League season kicked off this weekend. 4 games. And there were some mixed games. We're not going to break them down that thoroughly, but we'll touch on it. The action kicked off on Thursday. York United lost 1-0 to Halifax Wanderers. When we did our kind of midweek CPL show, we spoke about the fact that there's certain teams that they've got one player that they rely heavily on. And for Halifax, it's João Morelli. And especially from the penalty spot. And hey, surprise, surprise, João Morelli, 53rd minute winner here, and it was from the penalty spot, making a losing start for Martin Nash as head coach.
Yeah, and he also went down a man.
Yeah, Mateo Hernandez sent off late as well, just making their night worse, but it wasn't a quality game. I think it's fair to say to kick off the league campaign.
And it was almost deja vu a couple days later.
It was on Saturday.
Almost.
Ottawa won. Cavalry nil. The home side getting the win this time. Not a great game of football. Another 1-0 victory.
This one was a shocking result for me when I saw it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't see the game, but when I saw it, I was like, what's going on here?
Ottawa are much improved this year. There's another sending off in this one as well. Cavalry did have their chances, they just didn't take them. They outshot the home team 17-10, and for me, they were the far better side. But it was decided by a penalty. Escalante handled in the box. For me, no question about it. He dived towards the ball.
Yeah.
Then Brian Wright fired it home, 81st minute. But then Ottawa made it difficult for themselves in the closing stages because Drew Becky was sent off with 5 minutes to go for a really ridiculous stamp on David Norman right in front of the ref.
Wasn't it like, I know Drew Becky.
I don't think it was intentional.
I don't like, he's not a malicious dude.
No.
But I know we all know David Norman, and he might have done something to make Drew Becky do something. So I don't know.
But it didn't even look that. It almost looked like he was sent off more for like the letter of the law as opposed to like any intent or whatever. Like it was,
good point.
Yeah, I don't even think David was hurt by it. Like
he may just have seen how happy David is on his Instagram posts, and he just thought, I'm not having that. I'm going to stamp on his foot. But the attendance for this one, not bad, 5,380. It was a pay what you want at the gate, and it was a celebration of Ukraine with Ottawa having a special Ukrainian coloured strip for this as well. So very nice touch, very well done by Ottawa.
Yeah.
Then 2 games on Sunday.
Actually, I stand corrected. This next result is probably the most shocking one out of all.
Yeah,
but it's even more shocking when how it came about.
Yeah. It's FC Edmonton 1, Valor 1. The 2 head coaches that we've spoken to recently really rooting for in the league, especially Alan Koch at FC Edmonton. If you haven't checked out our CPL special that came out last week, episode 507, please do. We've interviews with Alan Koch, we've interviews with Martin Nash, and we've interviews with James Merriman as well. But yeah, Alan's FC Edmonton 1-1 at home to Valor. Both goals in this came in the stoppage time of each half, with Andy Beccaro putting Valor in the lead in the 1 minute of stoppage time in the first half, and I thought that was game over.
It was very nice
Edmonton
finish.
Coming back, it was
very nice finesse inside of the foot, bottom corner.
But I'm pretty sure, I haven't had a chance to listen to Alan's post-game interview, but he's going to talk about the fighting spirit of his team, never giving up.
I mean,
95th minute equaliser.
It was crazy.
Tobias Warszewski, the German, dramatic, stunning, lovely bicycle, acrobatic.
Yeah.
I'm delighted for them with everything that they've gone through to at least start off their campaign with a point.
The big man got up and got it in. Yeah. It was, I mean, you feel good for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't find the attendance for this just before we came on.
I don't think they could find the attendance for
it was a not bad turnout.
Are you sure?
For Edmonton.
I was going to say, it felt like being when I was there in November watching the last game of the season where it was like a ghost town. I mean, it was more than that day, obviously, but it was not encouraging for, I'm sure, for Alan and those who are running the club at the moment.
No, but at least on the pitch.
On the pitch, something to build on.
If anyone didn't hear the chat I had with Alan, Alan basically said, look, we're not ready for the start of this season.
That one quote you gave me, was that a private quote or was that in?
It was in the interview. I paraphrased it to you, and I'll paraphrase it to this, where Alan's basically saying, yeah, if someone's put money on Edmonton finishing bottom at this point, they're probably very smart people. But yeah, we wish them very well. And the final game of the weekend, it was the championship rematch.
Match of the weekend.
Pacific FC 2, Forge 1. Lot of storylines in this with returning players and stuff, but definitely the most enjoyable game of the weekend. 4,938 in attendance at Starlight. I know you're a bit disappointed by that, Zach, but I thought it was a pretty good crowd.
No, it was a good crowd, and I know they're going to have a sold out crowd tomorrow night tomorrow night for the women's game, which is great. You just would love to see it full. You know, if this is their first game after winning the title,
celebrating the trophy.
Loved to see, and season opener. And I know
it could have been a decision for some people to watch the women's national team instead of the Pacific for this.
If you can only afford for your family one game in the weekend, I think a lot of folk probably will have gone with that, and that's fair enough. What did you think of their strips?
Yeah, very nice.
I liked it.
Very nice.
Ruined, and Caitlin, who's sitting beside me just now, agreed by the green Volkswagen. And now I know you've got to have the sponsor on it, but why green?
Yeah,
I had to contrast a bit, I think, right?
Yeah, but
I'd love to see that strip in black and the white strips, like the white stripes kind of thing, the kind of opposite colors instead of black. I'd like to see it like that. Yeah. That'd be nice.
It's a lovely strip. I might actually get that. It was lovely. It was a great ceremony beforehand as well with all the First Nation people, and I think they honoured it very well. It was a very good game. For the game itself, Diaz, 5-minute lead for Pacific. Pacific should have been out of sight in this one, and I was very pleased to see Amir Didic make it 2-0 in the 57th minute. And Steve, this is not going to be the first time or the last time. It was the first time, but it's not going to be the last time we see this season. Bustos with a cross to the head of Didic in the back of the net.
For sure, and with the weekend coming up, this is basically like Didic returning to the promised land after spending like 40 years in the desert roaming around. So for me, that I like he looked like a different player than when you see with Edmonton. Like it almost like gave him like he looked like a couple inches taller. He looked when he jumped up, it was like higher and stuff like that. Like that confidence of being with. And no offense against the Alan Koch in Edmonton, but being with a team like Pacific kind of gets you excited for this guy, because this guy, but he still has a shout out for the national team. Like there is.
And the Whitecaps had a look at him last year, and I still think we should have maybe pulled the trigger on him. But But I mean, Forge did pull one back in the 89th minute. Ashin Yorty Johnson.
Near post header.
Yeah, a header, and there was just silence. But I mean, Pacific. I listened to the post-game interviews on One Soccer, didn't get a chance to jump on to the actual post-game press conference because we're recording this right after it. But Pacific deserved winners, and they should really have won by more than one goal. But James Merriman off to a winning start as head coach. Just delighted for all the guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a good start for them. It's a massive match because you beat Forge on their patch in the one-off final, and then you get to host them the next year and kind of remind them that you're the top of the league.
Yeah,
I think those, and then obviously beating some of your former teammates.
I'm sure that way was a nice little thing for them as well.
Yeah.
Last little bit we're going to talk about on the show and in this part, keeping the Canadian theme going, turning back to the national team, the men this time, because we now know who they're going to be playing in the CONCACAF Nations League for 2022-23. Canada's drawn in a group with Curacao and Honduras. They're at home to Curacao on June 10th, then a trip to Honduras 4 days later. We spoke about this before, but just quickly, it's not, for me, the best test for them in building up to the World Cup. I know you've got the September window as well, but I'd have liked maybe something a little bit tougher. There were tougher teams that they could have pulled, and I know normally you want an easy draw to go through, but...
Yeah, but you weren't gonna, when you got like that many teams in CONCACAF, you're not going to get that much competition with the whoever's in pot.
Yeah, it's just a bit disappointing.
I just wish they didn't have to do this until after the World Cup was done. Like they gave people a little bit more freedom to do it. That's where the people are. But I feel like you could have made more money if you had like a chance to bring in like a top team into Canada, or potentially, like, I think there's more money in there than playing this competition.
Yeah, but the problem is all the other teams, I don't know about South America, but it's like in Europe, they're all playing their Nations League stuff as well. But
exactly. Yeah. I feel like this whole should have been, because of the timing of the World Cup and when it was going to be, because honestly, if the World Cup was in June, July, this wouldn't even play.
Oh, that's true.
That's actually, like, so yeah. Why are they not letting them prepare for it? So yeah, for me, it's a big advantage to the teams in Europe because they get to play against top competition, but not for definitely. I don't even think it's a good advantage for Mexico or US. I think they're in rough playing against the weaker teams. So
yeah, I mean, this is a problem we've never had to deal with before in Canada, right? Not being able to get the best opponents to get us ready for a World Cup. But I also think this is one of the downsides of the Nations League, right? The Nations League is meant to get rid of useless friendlies and create more competition within your confederation. But this is a moment where we're seeing for sure in these next whatever 6-7 months or whatever it is, that it is very much limiting how Canada can best prepare for their return to the biggest stage. And so it is unfortunate. But I think Herdman and his staff and the players need to not need not to, be all pessimistic that they can't play bigger teams or more teams that are similar to the teams they're going to be playing. And they need to actually use these games to get ready. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about that.
Don't play down to the competition.
No.
But that is it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. We will be back soon with more football chat. Just before we go though, guys, any final thoughts? Where can folk find you online, Steve?
You can find me on Whitecaps Beat, and what I learned, or what I think we can look at possibly in the future, is that with that glass half full thing, that we could possibly find through sponsorship with a certain Twitter user, if we just add a little word in there.
Zach?
For me, you can find me on Twitter at ZacharyAM. And I hope to maybe join Michael on some midweek stuff, talking about other football stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to as well. I'm Michael McCall. Find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read all our stuff away from the numbers, aftn.ca. Give us a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, youtube.com/AFTN Canada. We'll be having a lot of Provincial Cup videos going up on that channel soon. And as always, give us a thumbs up or a like or a nice review on wherever you get your podcasts. That would really be helpful to us as well. But that is it for now. We might be back with a special midweek show. Watch your podcast feeds for that. Until next time though, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the Caps!
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
EF